Ladies, let's talk. You've spent nights overthinking, replaying conversations, wondering what you could have done differently. You've doubted your worth, blamed yourself for someone else's emotional chaos, and bent over backward trying to fix something that was never yours to fix. But now it's time to flip the script, because the best revenge, the sweetest power play, is not shouting, not chasing, not proving. It's confusing a toxic man with one simple psychological trick: calm indifference. See, toxic men feed on emotional reaction. They're fueled by your tears, your anger, your effort to explain, to justify, to understand. The more you care, the more control they gain. They crave the drama, the attention, the chase. So what happens when you stop giving it to them? What happens when the woman they once could twist with a text suddenly becomes silent, poised, and unavailable? You disrupt their game. You leave them scrambling for the power they thought they had. You become unreadable, and that, my love, is terrifying to someone who thrives on manipulation. Let me break it down for you. This trick doesn't mean pretending you're okay. It means becoming okay, not because he changed, but because you did. It's no longer about proving your love or your loyalty, it's about choosing your peace. When he sends a confusing message, you don't reply. When he tries to gaslight you, you don't explain. When he disappears, you don't chase. You rise in silence. You focus on your glow up, not on getting closure. You train your nervous system to stay calm in chaos because that's where your real power lies. You want to confuse a toxic man. Show him he no longer gets to access your emotions. That's the psychological trick. That's the twist he never saw coming. He expected tears, he got peace. He expected drama, he got distance. And slowly, that confusion will turn into desperation. He'll try harder, he'll poke at you, he'll test you, but the more you don't react, the more control he loses. Because toxic men hate not being the center of your universe. So take your universe back. Be the star of your own life again. This isn't about playing games. This is about healing, evolving, and refusing to lower your frequency to match his dysfunction. You are not here to fix broken people. You are here to rise like the queen. You are calm, graceful, and unbothered. That's how you confuse a toxic man. That's how you win. Own your power, walk in your worth, let your silence speak volumes. Toxic men often operate through subtle emotional manipulation. Their power doesn't lie in obvious aggression. It lies in the quiet ways they provoke guilt, trip, or twist your words. They want to pull you into a loop of overthinking, reacting, and emotionally chasing them. The more upset, confused, or emotionally entangled you become, the more control they feel they have over you. This is why they thrive on your emotional responses. Whether you cry, yell, beg, or even try to explain yourself, they see it all as proof that you're still emotionally invested. And to a toxic man, that emotional investment equals power. They feed off the drama, the reaction, the energy you pour into trying to make things work. You might think you're trying to fix the relationship or show how much you care, but to them, it simply confirms they still own space in your head. They might disappear and reappear suddenly just to trigger your anxiety. They might say something confusing or cruel, just to see how far you'll go to defend yourself or win their approval. Every emotional response becomes fuel. Even when you're trying to explain your hurt, trying to be the bigger person, they interpret that as a win. It means they still have access to your emotions, to your peace, to your sense of self. This dynamic keeps you trapped. You end up constantly walking on eggshells, waiting for the next emotional trap, constantly drained and questioning yourself. It's not love, it's emotional chaos, and the key to breaking it is not louder words or longer texts. It's silence, it's calm, it's indifference. When you begin to detach emotionally and stop reacting, you take back your power. Suddenly, the toxic man doesn't know how to engage you. He doesn't know how to pull you into the cycle. Your lack of response confuses him because it signals something dangerous to his ego. You no longer care, and when you stop caring, the control starts to crumble. That's why this truth is so powerful. Toxic men thrive on your emotional reaction. The less you give them, the weaker their influence becomes. They lose the script, and in that silence, you gain clarity. You start seeing things for what they truly are, not through the lens of emotional chaos. It's in that stillness, that refusal to engage, that you become truly powerful. You step out of the game entirely, and that's when the game ends. Calm indifference is one of the most powerful psychological shifts a woman can make when dealing with a toxic man. It isn't about pretending not to care, it's about reaching a place within yourself where you genuinely no longer need his validation, approval, or attention. That level of peace confuses and disarms toxic behavior in a way no argument or confrontation ever could. When a man expects you to react, to cry, to fight, and you instead respond with calm stillness, he doesn't know how to proceed. His power lies in knowing he can stir your emotions, and when he loses that access, he also loses his grip. Toxic men expect a pattern. They say or do something hurtful, and you react. They disappear, and you chase. They confuse you, and you question yourself. They know how to trigger you because they've studied your emotions. But calm indifference disrupts this entire dynamic. It sends a message that you are no longer playing the role they've assigned you. You are no longer the emotional responder in their performance. And without your reaction, their actions become meaningless. It's like trying to start a fire without oxygen. The flame can't catch. You see, calmness isn't weakness, it's control. It's choosing your peace over a pointless battle. It's knowing that not everything needs your energy, especially not someone who has proven they can't handle it with respect. Indifference doesn't mean bitterness or coldness. It means you have healed enough not to need their attention. You've outgrown the chaos. When you stop reacting, you create emotional distance, and that distance is where your clarity lives. You begin to see how much you tolerated just to feel seen. You start recognizing the manipulations that once felt like love, and that awareness is what strengthens you. This psychological trick is not about revenge, it's about reclaiming power. When he tries to provoke you and you remain calm, it forces him to face his own emptiness. He can no longer use you to escape himself. He can no longer depend on your emotions to boost his ego, and that's what confuses him the most. Not that you're angry, but that you're unaffected. He begins to question what changed, why he no longer gets to you, why your silence feels louder than your words ever did. In that calm, you create a mirror, and toxic men often don't like what they see reflected back. The truth is, calm indifference is not a game. It's the evidence of growth, of healing, of rising above. And nothing throws off a toxic man more than a woman who has become too powerful to be disturbed. Real strength begins when you stop trying to control the situation and instead learn how to control your response to it. Toxic men are skilled at creating chaos, emotional, mental, and even spiritual. They know how to trigger you, how to make you question your sanity, how to pull you into a storm where your only focus becomes surviving the next emotional wave. But the moment you stop trying to fix them or the relationship and start training your nervous system to remain calm during their chaos, everything shifts. The power no longer lies in their hands. It lies in your ability to remain unshaken. Most women caught in a toxic relationship don't lack intelligence or strength. They simply get emotionally hijacked. They respond out of pain, love, confusion, or hope. They want to save what feels meaningful. But toxic people manipulate those very responses. They know that if they can make you feel desperate, guilty, or scared, they can regain control. And when you're in that heightened emotional state, you stop thinking clearly. You make choices from survival mode rather than from a place of wisdom. That's exactly where they want you, off balance, always reaching for peace that they promise but never deliver. But imagine this, he throws a passive-aggressive jab and you don't flinch. He withdraws affection and you stay grounded. He tries to start an argument and you don't give him the fuel. That calmness is not silence. It's a strategic refusal to hand over your energy. Training your nervous system to stay centered means you no longer get pulled into his emotional games. It means breathing before reacting, pausing before responding, and reminding yourself that your peace is not up for negotiation. This kind of emotional control is not about bottling things up. It's about becoming emotionally mature. It's knowing that not every battle is worth fighting, especially when it costs your sanity. It's realizing that staying calm doesn't mean you're okay with the behavior. It means you refuse to be baited into proving your worth to someone who doesn't value it. In that stillness, you gain vision. You begin to see the patterns clearly, and with that clarity comes freedom. When you control your nervous system, you change the energy of every interaction. You take the fuel out of the drama. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. And once you master that, a toxic man has nothing to work with. He loses the ability to pull you back in because you've become too steady, too self-aware, and too powerful to be shaken. That's the kind of transformation that doesn't just confuse him. It makes you untouchable. One of the most liberating truths a woman can accept is that she doesn't owe anyone a chase, an explanation, or a justification for reclaiming her peace. Especially not a toxic man. These men are masters at creating emotional confusion, then standing back and watching you try to untangle it. They say something vague, hurtful, or dismissive, and then wait for you to react. They disappear without warning, then expect you to reach out, apologize, or demand clarity. It becomes a cycle where you're always trying to fix what they keep breaking. But the truth is, when someone shows you chaos, your best response is distance. When a toxic man disappears, let him. Don't chase him with questions. Don't flood him with emotional paragraphs or try to force closure. That's what he expects. He expects to be the center of your emotional world. He expects to come and go as he pleases, knowing that every exit will be met with your emotional pursuit. But when you don't follow that script, you shock his system, you confuse him, and more importantly, you begin to heal yourself. You're no longer trapped in a pattern of seeking validation from someone who is not equipped to give it, trying to explain yourself to someone who has already decided to misunderstand you is draining. Toxic men don't want your truth. They want your emotional energy. They want the power that comes from making you feel off balance, so when you stop explaining and start detaching, they lose their grip. You don't need to defend your actions, your standards, or your boundaries. You don't need to prove your worth to someone who can't even see it. Your value is not determined by how much you're willing to endure. It's determined by how quickly you're willing to walk away from what doesn't serve your soul. And when he sends mixed signals or tries to provoke you, remain still. Don't give him the emotional reward he's looking for. Let your silence be your answer. Let your peace be your power. There's nothing more unsettling to a toxic man than a woman who no longer needs his attention. The minute you stop reacting, he starts wondering. That confusion begins to grow when he realizes you're no longer available for his games. You've changed the terms. You've taken back your energy. In a world that tells women to fight harder to be seen, sometimes the most revolutionary thing you can do is simply stop responding. Not from bitterness, but from wisdom, because sometimes the strongest move isn't confrontation, it's disconnection. And when you stop chasing, explaining, or justifying, you remind him, and yourself, that your energy is a privilege, not a right. One of the most powerful decisions a woman can make after dealing with a toxic man is to shift all the energy she once gave to him and reinvest it into herself. It's not about revenge. It's not about trying to make him jealous or prove anything. It's about choosing herself with full conviction. When you stop focusing on him, his behavior, his responses, his silence, his approval, you free up an incredible amount of emotional energy. That energy, when redirected into your own healing, your appearance, your purpose, your growth, becomes unstoppable. This is the essence of the glow up, not just a physical transformation, but a spiritual one. Arise from the ashes he tried to bury you in. Toxic men condition you to prioritize them. You start living in reaction to their moods, their disappearances, their backhanded compliments. Your world begins to shrink around what they think, what they feel, what they need. You lose yourself trying to earn their attention, but when you choose to step out of that dynamic, everything changes. You begin to remember who you were before you met him, before the second, guessing, the walking on eggshells, the emotional roller coasters. And that woman, she's powerful, she's brilliant, she's magnetic. When you turn your focus inward, you awaken her again. The beauty of shifting your energy back to yourself is that your life becomes filled with meaning and intention. You start caring about your health, your skin, your style, not for male validation, but because you love how it feels to care for yourself. You start pursuing goals, reading more, spending time with people who uplift you. You create a life so full and radiant that the toxic man becomes irrelevant. He fades into the background of your story, no longer the leading role. And when he looks back, expecting the woman he once controlled to still be waiting in emotional limbo, he finds someone entirely new, someone glowing with purpose and peace. What confuses him the most is not that you've moved on, but that you've leveled up in every way. You're no longer trying to prove your worth because you finally know it. Your absence becomes louder than any words you could have spoken. He sees you thriving and it unsettles him, because toxic men expect you to fall apart when they leave. But when you rise instead, when you turn that heartbreak into motivation, you break the pattern. This is the kind of glow-up no one can take from you. It's built from within. It's powered by self-respect, self-love, and a refusal to stay stuck in someone else's emotional mess. And once you've tasted that freedom, you'll never hand your energy over so easily again. There is something profoundly powerful about a woman who chooses silence over chaos, who radiates peace instead of feeding drama. When you've dealt with a toxic man, one who thrives on emotional turbulence and feeds off attention, your most shocking and effective response is not an outburst, not a confrontation, and not even closure. It's silence, it's calm, it's the refusal to play the game any longer. Toxic men are used to women trying to reason with them, beg them to change, or plead to be seen. They are used to emotional energy being poured into them like a never-ending stream. But when that stream dries up, when you go quiet, they panic, because silence sends a message louder than any words ever could. They don't expect you to walk away quietly. They expect you to engage, to react, to reach out. They're counting on your emotional response to affirm that they still matter. But when you say nothing, when you stop replying, stop explaining, stop checking in, that's when they truly start to feel the weight of your absence. Your silence becomes a mirror, and in that mirror, they are forced to see the consequences of their behavior. There's no argument to distract from it, no drama to cover it up. Just the cold truth that they no longer hold space in your world. Peace is unsettling to someone who only knows how to function through conflict. When you stop responding, it's not just confusing, it's threatening to their control. They realize you are no longer the woman who needed to be heard or validated. You've become the woman who doesn't need to speak to make a point. Your actions say everything. You've healed, you've grown, and you've moved on. That is what rattles them the most, not your silence itself, but the strength and self-worth that your silence represents. This psychological shift is not about pretending you're unbothered. It's about becoming genuinely unbothered. It's about valuing your peace so much that you'd rather lose him than lose yourself again. When you reach that place, your silence becomes sacred. It's not about ignoring him to get a reaction. It's about choosing yourself every time without apology or explanation. Letting your peace speak means walking away from noise, from confusion, from anything that disturbs your spirit. It means recognizing that silence doesn't equal weakness. It equals power, because the woman who doesn't flinch, who doesn't chase, who doesn't react, holds the highest form of authority in her own life. And to a toxic man, that's the most terrifying and confusing thing of all. Thank you.